Hello, everybody. This is Gary Gomes. I'm submitting this as a supplementary video because one of my subscribers told me they couldn't see the charts that I put up on the screen. So this is for the video that was posted last week. Uh, that is December 21st, I believe, or December 20th. It was right before the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. So this is the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction of um, December 21st. And you can see Saturn is at 6 degrees 19 minutes, Jupiter's at 6 degrees 19 minutes. So that was what I was using for that analysis. I'm going to go back to the most recent Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, which was in 1961. And in this one, I didn't get the exact time down, but see if I can. It wasn't far off, so let me see if I can get that for you folks. I'll go about a week in advance and see that shows up. So 119, 61, 26, 20. I still need another a little bit further in advance. It was in, I'm going to go for February 1st. Because I'm pretty sure this was in February because there were all sorts of yayas being done for this particular conjunction. It was actually, yep, so we need a little bit more in the future. Let's go to February. That's 27, 20. Let's go with 10. Okay, 10 is out of it. So let's go. February 10th. February 9th. Let's go with February 7th. All right, February 7th. Yeah, this one was let's go back to February 1st again because that was close. Yeah, so Jupiter it wasn't quite an exact conjunction in 1961 because Saturn was, let me just check one thing out for you folks. Uh, so it wasn't what I would call an on the money conjunction. It was close, but Jupiter essentially, and let me see now, 61. It should have put up with Saturn a little bit later on that year. March 1961. Okay, so March 5th, 1961. So it's a little bit further back. March 5th of 1961, March. Let's go back to March 1st. So Saturn. So we're going for late February. Sorry about that, folks. February 20. Close, but no cigar. So let's go back one more. Back just a little bit more. Back in few days. February 17th. Okay, so pretty much it's February 18th. Let's advance the time a little bit. We'll get it. Really close now. February 18th. February. And let's go to 6 p.m. All right, so the exact conjunction was on February 18th, 1961. It's a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction in Capricorn. And it was in the 6th house, which tends to indicate struggles. The 12th house transit. So this will indicate struggles, but ultimately not bad. Also, as I said last week, Saturn was aspecting Venus. That would have taken away some internal peace in the society. If Saturn's aspecting Mars as it is during the last conjunction, it will tend to cause what I would call a freeze in society. And so essentially the society will not be able to, or I was going to say it won't be able to move forward. It won't have a lot of dynamism. So this Saturn aspect doesn't involve Mars. Also, Saturn-Mars aspects involve a certain amount of perfectionism. Saturn-Venus actually produces people who are very artistic or spiritual. It tends to be a more uplifting kind of an aspect. Also, it gives fame. So that Saturn Moon aspect tends to make the period what I would call famous or long lasting. It's interesting because this cycle, this Saturn Jupiter cycle, indicates the end of uh, the end of the Saturn Jupiter cycle that started in 1961. So this grand conjunction matches, essentially complements the grand conjunction of 1961, the Saturn Jupiter grand conjunction in 1961. So we're going to see more change, more upheaval in the society. The 60s, for those of you who don't remember them or who weren't there, were actually a pretty violent decade. There were assassinations, there were, it seemed like perpetual riots in the streets, there were anti-war demonstrations. There were a lot of people being killed. The Saturn-Mars aspect may help to suppress that just a little bit. That we experienced in this last conjunction. So that's hopeful, but it'll still be very, very difficult on people because they won't feel like they can move forward. They'll feel frozen in space, I think. Okay. And the last one that I want to look at, that I wanted you folks to be aware of, was the 1226, the exact conjunction in 1226. Again, I didn't fix this exactly, I don't believe. So 1226, the conjunction, and I'm not going to fix this, to be honest with you. The 1226 conjunction was Jupiter and Saturn. Saturn, at least from this chart, seems to be aspecting Mars. It's 28 degrees of Jupiter. So let's see if we can, I'll see if I can rectify this one, folks, too. Depends on where, August, Jupiter is catching up. Let's go to September. Let's see what that does. Okay, so it's close. Let's go to October. Okay, so Saturn is, let's go to September. Okay, so they're not going to quite catch up to each other during this time span I've chosen. 15, what is that? 9, 15, September 15th, that is. So they're close around September 15th. And this conjunction would be an almost exact conjunction in the sky. So essentially, now again, I'm not paying a lot of attention to this because it was so long ago, but there does seem to be, again, like as I was trying to say last week, this coincided with a lot of what I would call a return to fundamentals in society. So you had various groups around the world trying to reestablish or traditional ways of doing things, trying to reestablish more order as it had become. One of the things that I found fascinating was the Albigensian or the Qatari heresy was actually a cry for reform. It was a call away from traditional church dogma and the founding of an entirely different religion. And one of the reasons why this religion was founded was because the church was viewed as being very corrupt. That was one of the outstanding things this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction set off. Or put it this way, they actually succeeded in not really shutting down the Qatar heresy, but they made a strike on one of its biggest centers. So I think that there are interesting parallels because you're seeing a lot of reform movements around the world right now, and you're also seeing an effort to try to return to either break away from those decisions that were made a few years ago, such as in Brexit. Brexit finally got resolved just recently, and one of the foundations the of the movement in both the Democratic and the Republican parties in the United States was about trying to move away from business as it had been traditionally practiced. That is, you had these very strong parameters of what was acceptable behavior, and you had both the right and the left starting to come out against those behaviors, and you had the middle reassert itself um, in elections on both sides. So you have these folks who have been used to doing things for a long way and a long time in one way, and they had serious challenges, both of which were effectively defeated in this election. So does that mean there won't be any more attempts at reform? That doesn't seem. There is something else going on in the world, and that is the Rahu and Ketu axis is um, is actually getting stronger, and you'll see more efforts at reform because of that this particular year. And you'll also see when Jupiter moves into Aquarius in April, you'll see a renewed interest in reform. So it's not over. Also, the United States, as I said many times before, is in a Rahu major planetary period. Um, it ain't over for another 14 years or so. So it's really interesting to look at these things from an historical perspective, because our first Rahu Mahadasha was during the Revolutionary War. Second Rahu Mahadasha was during the Roosevelt um, administration and the breaking up of monopolies. This is our third Rahu Mahadasha, and oddly enough, it started roughly at the same time, or just a few years before the Tea Party movement started, and also the progressive wing of the Democratic Party started to show more vigor. So I think that these efforts from both the right and the left will profoundly change the United States over the next 15 years or so. I think you'll see similar efforts at reform in different parts of the world, and the landscape will change. Um, Not everywhere, but the landscape will change in quite a few places around the world, not just politically, but economically. And I don't think any major power is going to be untouched by this. All right, so that's what I have to say. I'm deliberately being vague about how this is going to impact people, but I do see an increasing interest in demonopolization of certain industries. I am seeing that already. That's already been happening. You are seeing various reform movements starting to gain some energy and some strength, whether they be on the side you'd like them to be on or on another side that's still there and is still very strong. It's still a very strong desire. So I think we are going to see some interesting changes over the next few years. Some of them you're going to like, some of them you're not going to like, because it will change our way of doing things. Um, the Black Lives Matter movement is part of this. A lot of the cancel culture is part of this as well. I don't know how long that's going to last. I can't really say. I haven't examined its origins as closely as I would like to, and I don't know how things like Bitcoin. I'm going to try to do some more research into Bitcoin to see how that's going to play out as a substitute currency. But yeah, there are some economic, political, and social changes coming up over the next few years, and I'm going to start looking at those more seriously over the next few months. Okay, all right. I just want to fill you in the chart you didn't see. Um, because the sharing apparently failed at certain points, and I just wanted to provide the supplemental information to last week's video. So today is December 26th. This is to correct the video that was posted on December 20th. Okay? Thanks a lot, folks. Have a great day. And namaste.